Now, I've done this before. And I'm going to try it again. Instead of a sermon, I'd like to do a science lesson. And to do the science lesson, I'd like everybody to take out their science textbooks. That would be these big blue books that say, all right, well, that's okay if you don't have it. You can do it along with me. Now, who can tell me, class, what is the current theory of the origin of the universe? Anybody know? There was a TV show. I know. Go ahead. What was it?
Well, here's two theories. First one is a Big Bang, which we all know is wrong.
Stop there. Stop there. Tell me about the Big Bang theory that everybody says is wrong.
The Big Bang, that was, so like the universe was all swirling around and then suddenly, bang, everything was put into place.
Well, that's kind of close. From what I've read, the Big Bang theory is that there was nothing, and then there was a quantum singularity that brought all sorts of subatomic material into existence, which scientists have replicated in particle accelerators. And over time, what happened to those particles? They swirled around, like you said, and they formed together and created the things. So, this week, our portion is Bereshit. And on page, let me come to it. On page 2 of your science textbook, it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. Now the earth was unformed and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light was good, and he divided the light from the darkness. Sounds like the Big Bang to me.
I'm loving it.
Scott, all right, thank you. So our science textbook then goes on to talk about 5 other epochs, if you will, or days. Okay, what is a day? Well, if I asked you what a day is, some people would say, well, a day is defined by the amount of time that a planet rotates on its axis and comes back to the same point that it was facing the sun. Okay? If somebody else may say, well, wait a minute. Doesn't day mean that period of that period where you see light as opposed to the other part of the quote-unquote day when you see darkness, which we call light, otherwise known as, you guessed it, Lila in Hebrew. So that was a day and that was a night. Now, we see in our science textbook, it defines the 6 days, but yet the sun and the moon didn't come into existence until, and I'm looking at, I believe it's the 3rd day, where God created the luminaries. Actually, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven and divide the day from the night. Let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. I'm on page 4 of your text. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven. And it was so. God made the 2 great lights, which was the greater light, the sun, which was the lesser light, the moon, which were the luminaries, the stars. So until the 4th day, we had no way of defining exactly how much time that day might have been. Now, if anybody remembers the play or the story Inherit the Earth, where they talked about the Scopes monkey trial, and the lawyer, I remember my friend Keith was in that play, and part of the play was he asks this guy, he says, well, how long was a day? The sun and moon hadn't been created. Could a day have been a second? Yeah. Could it have been millions of years? Sure. Maybe the first day when we had this quantum singularity might have been moments, might have been microseconds. Maybe as the days proceeded, the days got longer or shorter, depending on what was happening. But it wasn't until that 4th day that the actual period of time really got defined. Now, some people have also talked about evolution. In his book, The Dragons of Eden, anybody remember Carl Sagan? He says, why isn't this evolution? Because what do we have? Okay, after the fourth day, when we have the firmaments, when we have the lights in the sky, the sun and the moon, what do we have? We have let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures and let the fowl fly over the earth. We had fish and birds. Then we had great sea monsters, which, the Tommy meme, which somebody suggested might have been dinosaurs. Who knows, right? Great sea monsters, one of which swallowed our good friend Jonah as he tried to escape God's mission, right? And then at the end, there was man. So we did have a process, didn't we? We did have a progression. See? So the point of all this is not to teach you science, and just to say that in Judaism, okay, there is no such thing as church and state. There is only existence. And the book of Genesis, which we're reading this week and we'll be reading tomorrow, really talks about the origin of the universe in very real concrete terms. Now, any rabbi or sage will tell you that the Torah is really a history, not necessarily of chronology of the earth, but it's really a history of two things, Torah and the Jewish nation. Okay? And that's really what it is. But in order for there to be a Jewish nation and a Torah, there has to first be a venue for it to happen. And that's what this is all about. It is science. It is spirituality. Why Judaism as a religion came off later when everybody started creating religions and you needed to classify it. But for us, this is the origin of the universe. Now, if you happen to be an agnostic or an atheist and you don't believe in God or a divine being, then the question is, what made all of this happen? Would you grant that there is some cosmic creative intelligence that established all this? Do you believe it was just a roll of the dice, that all this is just random? There have been millions of universes created that just didn't happen because it wasn't correct, and finally this is the one that took? Or do you believe that there are laws? What laws? Laws of gravity, right? What is Newton's third law? For every action there is an opposite and equal reaction. I will submit to you that the second paragraph of the Shema, if you do right, the rains will come in the proper time and the ground will yield produce. If you don't do right, if you don't observe the mitzvah, the ground will swell up. There'll be no rains, right? Same thing. It's all karma, as the word is in the popular culture. So the point is that I will submit to you that this is a very real with a capital R, discussion of how our universe was formed in a very, once again, real sense. Questions, comments? Leo. You raise your hand, Leo?
My mouse doesn't want to work. A very snide remark here, but Hashem got a lot of bang for the buck.
He got a lot of bang for the buck.
Yep.
I like that. Very good pun. Very witty. I'll have to remember that.
Rabbi.
Yes.
One of the things that I am looking at Breshit, which I really love, is we consider that 24 hours is one rotation of the Earth. What if that's one rotation of the Milky Way galaxy? Then wouldn't that make a day a little different? And if it was...
I'm kind of a fan of science fiction, and I've wondered if there are other planets out there, and I 99.9% sure there's life on other planets. Maybe a day on another planet isn't exactly 24 hours. Maybe it's 22 and a half.
Well, like Mars is 26.
There you go. I don't know that there's life on Mars. I don't know if they ever had a Torah, but I would believe that any place that there's life would have a conception of a deity with a capital D that created everything that has similar stories. So maybe there, again, it doesn't tell you how long a day is. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that the universe came into being based on an intelligence, based on a cosmic plan. If you want to call it God, call it God. If you want to call it science and just the laws of physics or astrophysics.
Well, I think that you can't separate science from God and have anything rational, to be honest with you.
I agree with that.
That's just me. But it's like when I read this and then I go, God created the universe by speaking into existence, and you have vibrational energy that created everything. And if one day, and you have science 6 billion years or whatever the number is, then one day must be on a different measurement than 24 hours.
But the point is it,
Well, since we're not scientists, why don't we move on?
okay.
What was
All right.
that?
I think that it's, I never really understood how people, including Jews, could see this as all science. Science is a big part of it, but without the creator and having a purpose, it becomes all meaningless. The idea that all this could have happened for no reason at all, it's beyond it. I don't get it.
Or Hashem
Exactly.
luck
Yes,
itself.
and it's like what the sages and the rabbis say. They say that this is really a history of the Jewish nation and of the Torah. What is Torah? It's God's law. What made God decide to create the universe? So we would have a place to carry out his mitzvah. There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I just look up at the stars and just think that Hashem is pretty cool.
There you go. Says it
Hashem
all.
is luck.